Hey everyone, I'm Juan Carlos, and welcome to Bumble and Bumble Education. This is Razor 101. I want to bring you along. So we're taking a camera, I'm putting it on, and putting you in my shoes so that you can see exactly what I'm doing from my perspective. Now let's jump straight into sectioning. So what I'm going to do is turn the mannequin away from myself. I'm going to identify the center part of her head, and I'm going to do a straight part all the way back, dividing my head into two. Once I have that center part, I'm going to split the hair down the middle. I'm not too worried about taking that guide all the way to the back yet, as I'm only focused on sectioning off my horseshoe area. But I do need to part the hair into two so that I can then turn my head to the side, and using the side of the head, walk my section from the back part of the head by combing the hair forward, loosely holding it in my hand and shaking it off. I'll be able to identify the way that the hair wants to move. I'm not telling the hair what to do, I'm letting the hair talk to me. Once the hair falls out, I can see clearly where my horseshoe section wants to live. I'm going to clean it up though, to make sure that I have an even spread of the hair. Even though at Bumble, we create deconstructed looks, we still work with a lot of discipline. So I want to make sure that I'm creating clean sections so that my client sees the professionalism, and as I work, they value the edge. I do the same to the other side. I brush the hair forward towards the face, loosely hold it, shake the hair, and let the head talk to me. I can see where that hair wants to part down on its own. I'm gonna bring that section up and then clean my recession area with my side panel. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and take that center part all the way down, straight to the back of the head. And I'm going to section my sides, walking them all the way towards the face and using a clip to section it out of the way. I am using these clips because when you cut with a razor, you want to use clips that don't have a lot of tension. And the reason why is because as you start to finish your haircut, you're allowing the hair to air dry and work itself into the finished look. And because you're doing that, you don't want to use clips that have too much tension that'll end up creasing the hair to a point where you'll have to blow dry that out. You want to work your way towards a finished look. Okay? And this is what you want it to look like when you're gonna pick up your razor and begin to cut. I have my horseshoe area sectioned out. I have my guide going all the way down to the center of the nape, and then I have my sides pushed away from the area that I'm going to be working in. I'm going to be using the tip of my razor. You can see that I'm grabbing my razor in between my fingers, pushing it all the way in there nice and taut. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it so that it's working with my hand. It's an extension of my hand. I'm not uncomfortable, and I'm controlling it with my index finger and my wrist. Here's one thing that you always want to keep in mind. If I'm cutting someone at a one length, I'm going to go ahead and tilt their head forward, especially with a razor. What I want is every section I take up the head, I want to make sure that I'm leaving longer and longer and longer. I'm going to pivot my hand so that I can work my razor into the section, having it be an extension of my hand and not uncomfortably twisting my wrist. I'm going to head and begin my strokes before I make contact. A good way to remember that is going to be air before hair. Once I start to make contact, what I want to feel is just gliding of the hair. I don't want to feel any tugging. I'm working on medium strokes, and you can see the effect that we have right there. I'm not hearing a crunch or a scrape. You can see the beautiful soft perimeter. I'm going short to long towards the face. The reason why I'm going short to long towards the face is because my client's head is tilted forward. If her head was straight up, I would have to do a blunt haircut now. See how I lose that angle and now it's completely straight? With the one length haircut, if you have your client facing forward and you have them with their head tilted forward as if they were looking at their phone, you want to make sure your angle is short to long towards the face. To make sure that I have the symmetry on both sides, I'm going to go ahead and take now the section on my left side. Now I'm going to work the left side of the head. What I'm going to do is take a small piece from my previous section that I just cut as a guide, work the rest of the hair away from me so that I can see the area that I'm working. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that tension, move my hand past my guide. Visually, I can see where that guide fell out, and then I'm going to turn and angle, pivot my tension so that I can work the heel of the razor. As I start to go in, I'm making sure that my body position is correct, standing up straight, shoulders width apart, and that my wrist is an extension of my arm and the razor becomes an extension of it all. So as I start to make contact using the heel, I'm not hearing any crunch, I'm not hearing any scrape, and I'm not gonna work past my second knuckle. Now that I have that down, I'm gonna go ahead and shake that off and take my next section. Every time I take a new section, what I want to do is when I have control of that section, I want to work past my previous guide. And the reason why is because I need to be able to have flow to my structure, which means that I want the bottom to be able to move. I don't want the bottom of my guide to be heavy. Cutting past your guide creates softness around that perimeter. I'm taking the next section all the way up towards the face. Now, because this is a one length haircut and I'm working everything in the back of the head to the bottom, I want to go ahead and over direct everything from the front of the head to the back. And the reason why is I want to continue to create that angle from short to long towards the face. Because my client's head is tilted forward, once she lifts that head up, it's going to be a nice and soft line without it beveling out towards the back or having too much of an angle forward. First, I'm gonna get control of the section, everything that is behind the ear. I'm gonna section the rest of that hair with a clip out of my way. This guide is very important, so I'm going to go ahead and section that off, protect it, and get control of the hair that's gonna be in my way when I cut that section. Make sure you saturate. You gotta work on damp hair. Your blade has to be able to glide. I'm gonna work this section here in the front. Since I'm right-handed and I'm working from right to left, again, we're gonna use the heel. Air before hair. I'm not hearing any sound. I'm not hearing any pulling. I'm gonna go ahead and take my next guide, move past my guide, pivot, hair before hair. If you're looking at the hair that you're working on and you notice that it's starting to get thick, especially once you start to hit that curvature of the bone structure, here's what you can do. What I don't like to do is do any internal layering or airing the hair out below the occipital too much if my clients have low density. And the reason why is because if I bevel this too much, then the hair that lives on top is going to curve into the head and you're going to see almost like a swoop. Right now, I'm not trying to create that. I'm trying to create movement and flow, but I am starting to notice that it's getting heavy. I haven't cut this section. I already cut the perimeter of this section, but if I notice that, I can go back into my section, take the area that I feel is getting heavy, and start to create some internal layering in there. Now, if you use internal layering on a client that wants a one length haircut, they might look at it as something that they do not want since what they're asking for is a one length haircut. But what you can tell them is, I noticed that your hair is looking heavy in this area. I want to create some movement so that your hair has some dance and some flow. It's almost like jazz. You create a lot of structure, but now it needs some rhythm. It needs to be able to dance. So I'm gonna take my blade, I'm gonna work my way up, boom, turn the key, and then work down and remove that weight. Notice that it's heavier here than here. I go to the area that's heavier, turn the key, and remove that weight. Go up, turn the key, remove that weight. When I push the hair in, I can see where it bends. See that bend? That's where you want to be able to start that weight removal. Go in, turn the key, remove that weight. You can see all of that internal airing that we just did. The hair is gonna be able to have texture, flow, and move, and because you use the proper language, your client won't be scared. Now that I've cut both sides, what I want to do is now what lives on top of the ear and work this back towards the head. Now as I start to work towards the face, I'm going to take that guide that lives above the ear and I'm gonna bring it back. Again, I'm not trying to create perfection, I'm trying to create balance. And balance is what works for my client with what's going on with her hair. I can see my guide here. I'm getting control. I'm gonna grab my comb, grab my guide. I can see where I need to cut. I'm gonna go ahead and pivot so that my heel can fit in there, hair before hair, and go ahead and cut. Going to do the same to the other side. This is a great spot to stop. Turn your client towards the mirror and then visually grab the two pieces that you just cut that were above the ear and in her face, and just make sure that your guides match up. If you feel like you're a little longer or shorter on one side, figure out where and then adjust from there. She feels pretty good. Both of my tips work themselves into each other, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue. Now that I'm working my last section before I go into the horseshoe area, I noticed that the hair was starting to dry up a bit. So I need to go ahead and add moisture back into the hair using the Bumble Prep Primer. Have you noticed that I haven't had to saturate the hair too much with this product or any product till I got to this point? The reason why is because this has hydration and oil in it. That means that the hair isn't gonna dry out as fast as using natural water. Also, the product is going to start to style the hair, and you're starting to see a little bit more texture and a finished look come out of those areas that are starting to dry up. So it's always better to saturate the hair with a prep primer or an HIO. Whenever I do any weight removal closer to the face on clients, I tend to avoid the area that's right in front, and the reason why is because there's less density there. However, on a mannequin, there's so much weight in those areas, I can go ahead and start to continue to practice my weight removal technique. The more you practice, the better we get, right? Now that I've done my weight removal in that area, I need to go ahead and adjust my client, make sure her head is consistent with how it's been the whole time I've done this haircut. Then I'm taking that section and I'm over directing back towards the back of the head to where my guide is. Using the heel, I let the guides fall, work past my guide and into the area that I need to cut. Since we're happy with the flow and the silhouette that we have right now with our haircut, it's time to work up towards your horseshoe section. You're not going to change much about the way you've been working. Really, the reason why I like to section in a horseshoe section is so that I make sure that the progression of my haircut is moving smoothly, that I'm not making any mistakes, and I don't want to do too much cross-checking once I'm done with my haircut. I personally like to cross-check as I go, and the reason why is so that I can continue to work into a finished look. That's why the products are so important, the products that you choose to use during the haircut. And the reason why it's so important is because the products are a tool. And if you're working into a finished look as a stylist, those products that you're using as a tool are super important because you can start to visualize it. And if your client's already seeing the finished result as you're cutting, then you can start to customize a bit more. Especially with a haircut like this where the client is asking for a one-length haircut. If they're already seeing a finished look as you're moving forward and progressing throughout the area of work, then what's happening is you're starting to gain trust and confidence within this service. And you're able to add more of your style, more of that BB style that's gonna set you apart into your finish. I'm going to continue to work these sections that I just took to the back of the head, pivot so I can work my heel in here. Perfect. Work the next section, bring it back, pivot, hair before hair. Since I'm already at my last section of this side, I'm going to head and just continue to work this side. When I'm deciding how much of that internal movement I want to create with my razor, I'm keeping in mind that what I want is for my style to be deconstructed, not destroyed. I'm trying to create movement. So if I see that there's areas that don't necessarily need this technique, then I'm not gonna go and do this technique where it's not needed. My lovely client wants me to create some face frame, but because I'm going to only be working that face frame area from the front curvature of the top of the head towards my side panels in front of the ear, I'm going to be leaving the rest of the hair alone. I don't want it to start to dry out too much without it working itself into a finished look. So I'm going to grab my Bumble grooming cream and I'm going to emulsify it in my hand. I'm gonna rub it till it turns white. Then that's what it should look like before you start to apply. Then instead of just putting all this product into the top of the head, what I'm going to do is come up over into the bottom and start to just get from roots to ends, really work that style into the hair, go ahead and move behind my client, work that product in, and then once I've worked most of it internally, then I'm going to go ahead and emulsify whatever's left into my hands and then come over towards the top. At Bumble, we don't fake movement, we build it with intention. That's why now with that BB grooming cream in the hair, all that intention that you just built into your one length Razor 101 haircut is going to start to come to life. But my client does want some face framing, so let me show you how I go about that. What I'm finding here is the disconnection of my comb and my client's head. I identify it right here, right with that curvature towards the nose. What I want to do is take my comb and take that section over to the front of the ear. With the sectioning that I'm taking right now, my intentions is to show you a really foundational way to cut the hairline. That's still gonna give you a beautiful result with a soft razor finish. What I want to do is decide where I want that face frame to start. Because my client wants a one length haircut and she may be scared to add too much into her style, I already encouraged her with all the movement I created. Now I'm going to risk it a little bit more. Why don't we start here around the lip and chin area and progress that angle down. Depending on how much I elevate or I over direct is how intense it's going to be. In this case, what I want to do is show you a nice simple way to jump into face framing without doing too much for yourself. So what I want is just to create a little bit of elevation. I have the area I want to work in, and what I'm going to do since I'm working left to right is use the heel closer towards the center of my blade, and I'm just going to drag that down into the area that I want it to stop at. It still glides. I didn't feel any tugging, I didn't feel any pulling, but look at that beautiful effect that I get. Then what I'm going to do is make sure I didn't leave too much hair out. That looks beautiful, and it goes directly into my length. Because I took the section in front of the ear, I'm not going to create a hole with the perimeter that I created on my one length haircut. Once I start to marry these two sides down, you'll start to see that I still have that strong structural line to my whole silhouette. I didn't destroy any of that structure. I didn't get rid of that beautiful corner that marries towards the back of the silhouette. Instead, with the face framing, we were able to add a touch of sexy. Now I'm going to take my next section, and for something to be balanced, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to work for your client. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that section, and instead of pulling from my previous guide, I'm going to start with that same elevation that I did on the left side, and I'm going to start in the same point of reference that I did for the left side. Since I'm working from left to right, I'm going to use the tip closer towards the center of my blade and then do the same thing I did on the other side, making sure that none of it is tugging, making sure that none of it is getting stuck. Then, because I was starting to cut with less tension, I reorganized myself and finished that face frame. I want to show you guys a cool trick so that you can continue to bring some value to the services behind the chair that you're offering. What I'm doing right now is I'm using my hands as tools. My hands are the most powerful tool that I have as a hairdresser. And what I'm seeing is that I can go ahead and take a lot of these areas of my hair that are talking to me. So if I look at this section here, I can see the wave is wanting to bend forward. So what I'm going to do without going and making this too perfect, I'm just gonna use my fingers and emphasize that wave that wants to happen. On some of them, I'm using a little bit more tension, I'm going tighter. On others, I'm just letting the hair talk to me and then going looser. You can see that effect start to happen here. I can look straight at that face frame area and see that it wants to swoop beautifully. So I take that area that's beginning to swoop, and then what I want to do is identify in which way it wants to bend. I can see the bend start to happen here in the front. I'm gonna take my fingers, create that bend, emphasize it, and then spread it with my other hand. I don't want to be perfect about any of this. Even if this happens where it's a little disconnected, that's okay. I'm not gonna make it perfect. I'm going to come in and let it be what it wants to be. I also want to keep in mind the next step. The next step is going to be diffusing the hair with the Bumble & Bumble Surf Spray. So I don't want to do too much now that's gonna affect the next step. Always keep that next step in the back of your head so that you're working collectively with every technique that you bring behind the chair for a great finished result. Now I'm going to spray surf spray into my style. This is going to be the finishing touch. This is going to be what really brings everything together for me. I might still use a different product after this, but this is what's really gonna bring it all to life. It's gonna give it beachy texture, it's gonna give it that airiness, it's gonna give it that grittiness, but it's also just gonna bring all of it together for a beautiful look. Now that the surf spray is in the hair, like I said before, your hands are your most important tool. So as I start to diffuse this hair, what I'm going to do is with my hands, move the hair in the direction that I want it to go. Wherever I want to see flow, I'll push it. Wherever I want to see volume, I'll lift it. Wherever I want to see texture, I'll create it. You can see how with my fingers, I was able to start to work that style out of the hair. Now I'm just gonna make sure that the hair is completely dry before I send my client off. And the reason why is because I still wanna add a little bit of dry spun texture spray into the hair. If I wasn't gonna add more product into my client's hair, I would let her leave the way she is now, because then the way it continues to air dry, with the movements that she's taking when she's walking or playing with her hair, or whatever she's gonna do, the hair is gonna do it with her. So there it is, your Razor 101 haircut with Bumble and Bumble. The soft edges, the strong structure, and that Bumble ease. For more education like this, make sure that you follow @Bumblepro. My name is Juan Carlos, and I can't wait to see you, whether it's in a classroom, at the salon, or backstage.